Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. It is National Underwear Day, Tony. Are you wearing your faves?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Yep, the mesh one.
What a terrible image with which to start today's PTI. That's just awful. It's just
How
awful.
did this get to be National Underpants Day? How did that happen?
It's not underpants.
How does
underwear.
every day get to be something?
Yeah,
It's
two or
stupid
three things usually.
Do you know, my podcast is actually sponsored by Me Undies, so I have a horse in the race, so to speak. But mesh,
Nice name drop.
No. Crazy old man in his own attic. This is day 107. In today's episode, the Cardinals are cleared. We had a buzzer beater in the bubble, and the PGA Championship is set to start in San Francisco.
Baby.
But we begin today with college football. One piece of news is that newly independent UConn canceled its football season amid conferences playing conference-only schedules, making it hard for an independent to get games. In larger news, the Big Ten announced a conference-only schedule of 10 games, opening as early as September 3rd, which is less than 1 month from today. Wilbon, this is your conference.
Yeah.
Do you think that is achievable or even responsible?
Tony, I certainly don't know yet if it's achievable. And I think it's going to take a couple more weeks for us to determine that. Because, Tony, there have been entire teams in our conference in quarantine. Entire teams.
Yeah.
I mean, Michigan State at one point, Rutgers, I'm not even catching them all. But so we don't know. But, Tony, is it responsible? See, that's the thing I'm preoccupied with. And to declare my own baggage as a trustee of one of those universities in the Big Ten, Northwestern, my alma mater. And I don't know. I think that has to be done state by state and even smaller jurisdictions, maybe by county and maybe by school. What's responsible for one school may not be responsible. We got a range. We got the smallest school in the conference, my school being like, I don't know, 10,000 undergraduates. And then we got like Ohio State being, I don't know, like 60,000 undergraduates. And so I don't know if the rules and conditions are the same at all of our places. Minnesota, another 60, 70,000. I don't know that, but I worry about it.
Yeah, this is college football, to me, is the one sport that's not going to get off the ground until spring. I mean, the labor force are college kids.
Yeah.
This is sort of forced labor for them. I wonder, what are we teaching them? I wonder, is the objective to sort of expose everyone on every team to the coronavirus and get some sort of herd immunity? The statistic in your conference is 6 of the schools have either been on or are now in a quarantine and they've shut their program down. I look at the Big Ten, Mike, and you know I feel this way, as a very good academic conference. And I think the college presidents have to step up and they have to say, hold on. I'm not, what are you teaching students if you just trot them out there to play football? It's hard for me.
And Tony,
they're not pros. Pros are different.
Listen, to this end, some of the Big Ten kids have, identified with other movements, like in the Pac-12. And they're saying, wait a minute, how are you going to guarantee our health and safety? And can you guarantee it? And there's so many concerns out there that I think really smart kids in the conference, and not just our conference, but we're talking about the Big Ten now, want addressed immediately before they go out there. And I think this is fair. And that speaks to your question of, is it even advisable? Is it responsible to do this?
Well, here's the thing again. These are college kids. I make a distinction between professional football and college football.
No question.
If you're getting paid and you want to take this risk, fine. But some of those kids signed their name to a letter, I believe, in the Players Tribune, and they said, we're not sure it's safe. And you know why they're not sure? Because it isn't safe.
It isn't. It really
Look around. It isn't yet safe.
And should they be signing waivers to
it's
sign away certain
less
rights?
than a month, Mike?
Yeah.
How are they going to make it safe in less than a month? So,
let's go to baseball, Tone. The Marlins. Remember the Marlins? They beat the Orioles in their first game back from COVID detention last night. And the commissioner has now cleared the Cardinals to return to St. Louis and play again starting Friday against my Cubs, I believe. The Athletic reports that baseball is considering options to avoid virus-related postponements in the postseason. So, you know what that brings us to, Tony? Should MLB pursue a playoff bubble?
Okay. The playoffs are different than the regular season. You cannot postpone and postpone and postpone the playoffs.
No, you can't.
You have to get on the field, and games have to be won on the field. It looks like in hockey and basketball, the bubble works.
And soccer.
It looks like.
Yeah.
It looks like for the playoffs where you're going, you eliminate half the teams every series. It looks like players would be better off being sequestered. But, Mike, the question then is this. The players refuse that in the regular season. How do we know they will accept it now, even though, to me, it seems like the prudent course?
Tony, it is absolutely the answer, at least it seems like that as we look ahead. But you mentioned the thing, baseball is the sport where ownership and labor hate each other. They do. They despise each other. They don't want to cooperate with one another. They can't come to an agreement quickly on anything. And I don't think they can even come to an agreement on this, which seems like the logical solution. If you're looking at sort of a month or so, 6 or 7 or 8 weeks, yes, you could find a place where people decide, okay, this is our bubble. We're going to have enough hotel space, convention space, workspace. We can convert this into work rooms and makeshift meeting rooms. You can do that. We've seen multiple sports do it. They're doing it now. But you cannot trust baseball, labor, and management. They don't trust each other, Tony. I don't believe they could come close to getting this done, even though it's the way to go.
Well, it's a way to get a lot more money out of the playoffs than you would if you don't have the playoffs. There are corollary benefits, Mike. If you're in one spot, there's no real travel. You just get on a bus.
That's right.
You can play the series straight through. You don't have these other worries. You can also, if you're in Arizona or Florida, for example, you can play into November. It's warm. It's not a question of home field advantage because there's no home field advantage when there are no fans out there anyway. It makes all the sense in the world. And to your point, that doesn't mean the players and the owners can agree upon it.
Yeah, so give me a 1 to 10.
It just doesn't.
Even if somebody proposes it and both sides think it sounds smart, 1 to 10 on baseball getting a playoff bubble done.
I'd go as high as 7 or 8.
Really?
I think it's just too smart. I think it's too smart.
It is smart,
for both sides.
They hate each other. I think it's more like a 2 that they'll actually execute.
Oh,
a 2.
I hope not. The PGA Championship begins tomorrow at Harding Park in San Francisco, where the morning temperatures are forecast to be in the 50s, which is not good for a guy with a bad back, hint, hint. No forecast calls for the high temperature to even touch 70 all day. Brooks Koepka is going for 3 PGAs in a row. Jordan Spieth, who last I looked was from Texas and not Florida, is going for a career Grand Slam. And your boy, Bryson DeChambeau, is taking his bombs-away game to a major for the first time. Tiger Woods will play, believes he can win. Wilbon, which winner is the best story?
I wrote down some names that would all make for great story because there ain't one. There's no right answer. First of all, you can start with Tiger and Phil, either one. Fine. Koepka, Finau, Rory, Justin Thomas, Rahm, Dustin Johnson, Jordan Spieth, DeChambeau, who is villainous at this point, Tony. Any of these people, and there are more because you can have stories develop over a 4-day period. You can have a Cinderella who'd be a great story, which, as we know, is often the case in the PGA Championship. But, Tony, I think the setting is great. I spent some time at Harding Park. I can't wait to see how it is. I've seen it rainy and foggy, and I've seen it with brilliant sunshine. And we probably get all conditions there. Any of those people make for great storytelling.
So there's nothing like, if you live on the East Coast, as I do, nothing like a West Coast major. Because you watch all day. You watch till 10 o'clock. It's really, really good. To answer the question specifically, which winner would make the best story, for me it would be DeChambeau because it would drive you crazy because you hate him and you just called him villainous. Obviously, the best story of all is always Tiger Woods, but those temperatures do not help him.
No.
Justin Thomas is a good story because it justifies him being #1 in the world. It gives him 2 majors then and almost gets him at eye level with Koepka and McIlroy. And, of course, Koepka would go for 3 PGAs in a row which hasn't been done since Walter Hagen in almost 100 years.
ago.
Almost 100 years.
Yeah.
So there, a lot of them are really good stories. I'm going to throw a guy at you who I think can win because in the last couple of months, when you see him on weekends, unlike Finau and unlike Fowler, on weekends
Ricky,
he gets
I should have
better.
mentioned Ricky, by the way.
Daniel Berger. Just a
Berger's
wild
been
name.
pretty good.
Just a,
How about Gary Woodland?
He's been good.
I mean, listen, Tony, there's a posse of guys out there who would not surprise anybody if they won, and they would make for good storytelling the whole 4 days, I think. So you want to pick somebody?
I will just say this.
Who you got?
The PGA, well, the PGA is the least of the majors. Everybody would rather win the Masters and then one of the Opens. In the last 20 years, the PGA has produced winners like Jimmy Walker and Jason Duffner and Rich Beam and Sean McKeel, Y.E. Yang. That's probably their only major.
Got?
I just told you I gave you Daniel Berger as a long shot. I could get 100 to 1.
Okay, all right.
All right, who you got?
Finau.
Breaking he's had
through.
A great Sunday.
His Sundays, Tony, he's averaging 72.5 on Sundays. He's great Thursday through Saturday. Just tell him it's Thursday.
He is.
Just lie. Say, Tony, wake up. It's
Let's
Thursday
take
morning.
a break. Coming up, Wilbon has been slurping the Suns all season,
baby.
even though I say they're 2 years away from being 3 years away. Should we finally start paying attention?
Yeah, pay attention to Devin Booker, son. And could Carmelo and the Blazers actually pose a threat to the mighty Lakers?
Booker's your favorite guy now, right?
I love Booker. You know that. Booker.
Yeah,
Jimmy
dinner
Butler.
with him.
Booker and Jimmy Butler.
Lovely.
And those are,
Oh, Jimmy Butler. He's ruined 5 teams.
What?
Big moments in the bubble last night. Luka Doncic put up 34, 20, and 12. What a line.
Huge. Oscar-like.
In a win over the Kings. Devin Booker hit a twisting buzzer beater to take down the Clippers, and Carmelo hit a catch-and-shoot 3 in the final minute to help lead the Blazers over the Rockets. Danny Green said on his podcast that the Lakers see Portland as the biggest threat of the potential 8th seeds. Yeah. Wilbon, could the Blazers give the Lakers problems?
Yes, Tony. Problems is just extending a team, like the Lakers. If you can extend LeBron James and Anthony Davis and Rondo coming back, these are veteran guys who know how to play in the playoffs. If you can extend them, then they perhaps become vulnerable elsewhere. Not only that, Tony, there's the guts of a Portland team here, of course. Dame Lillard and McCollum. Now, Carmelo wasn't there then, but he is now. I mean, those guys have been in the conference finals. And also, you got Nurkic back. I mean, if the season had just played out in April, May, Nurkic wouldn't have been there, but he's back from injury. He's playing well. He's got size. He can handle that. And you got Gary Trent Jr., who now is playing like 35 minutes. So Portland has a real team with depth and skill and mental toughness. They could give them a problem. No, I don't see them beating the Lakers, but they could give them a problem.
So we don't know who's going to play the Lakers at the moment. The only sure thing for me is that Memphis is not going to play the Lakers. They're not going to be 8th because the NBA has vaporized Memphis. I mean, they've just gotten rid of Memphis. So let's go to teams that are contenders for the 8th spot at the moment. Phoenix, who you love.
That's right.
San Antonio, who you love.
I do.
Portland, who we just heard you love.
Yeah.
New Orleans, whose GM you love.
I do love the
even
GM.
if you don't think that Zion is important to the playoffs. By the way, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Isn't Danny Green on the Lakers?
Yes, he's saying the honest truth. Danny Green's been around. Danny Green is wearing a couple of rings. One from the Spurs and last year from Toronto. Danny Green knows what he's talking about. He's a veteran guy. He doesn't have to hold his tongue.
So you don't think that's strategic? Why would he say that the team he was on, the one team he fears the most in the first round, is Portland?
Because everybody knows it anyway.
That?
Just look at the rosters. Look at who's ready to play. Look at the veteran establishment players who have leaders on Portland. And Tony, everything's not about mind games. You look at the rosters. By the way, the Spurs, who's going to be dumb enough to count them out? You can't do that. And you mentioned Phoenix. It's not Phoenix's time yet. But Booker and Ayton is coming along. He looks good every game. They're going to be fine in a couple of years, maybe not get to the 9th spot now. But, Tony, Portland can be a problem.
Let me cut to the chase.
Okay.
Who's going to be 8th and play the Lakers? Who?
Portland.
Okay. Let's take one last break.
You disagreeing with me?
I love your knowledge. Is Derek Carr right?
That was so,
Derek Carr is
weak.
complaining that he's been disrespected. Derek Carr, come on.
He's like this.
Come on.
It was a real quick stay in the NHL bubble for your New York Rangers. Real quick
It's made me sad.
Huh?
I'm going to talk about it at great
Messier
length.
not walking through that door.
Happy time, people. Happy 73rd birthday, Bernie Carbo. History lesson, kids. Bernie Carbo wasn't a great player for the Red Sox. He wasn't Yaz or Rice or Poppy. But Carbo has a great piece of Sox history. His pinch hit 3-run homer with 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th tied Game 6 of the 1975 World Series. It got the Red Sox into extra innings and led to the most famous Red Sox homer ever, Carlton Fisk waving the ball fair in the bottom of the 12th. Carbo played 12 years for 6 different teams. His best year was his rookie year in Cincinnati, where he batted .310, and the Sporting News named him Rookie of the Year. He got to the Red Sox in 1974 when the Red Sox were owned by Tom Yawkey. Quote, "When I first met Mr. Yawkey," Carbo told the Boston Globe, "he was shining shoes in the clubhouse, and I went up to him, gave him a 20, and told him to get me a cheeseburger and fries." Carbo also told the Globe he battled addiction for years and, quote, "I played every game of that World Series high. I played the outfield sometimes where it looked like the stars were falling from the sky," unquote. And Bernie Carbo was out of baseball by 33.
Tony, man, he had a great rookie year. He had .310 and more than 20 home runs. But Tony, I remember him as a Cincinnati Red more than I do as a Red Sox. And he could strut, all right? Carbo could strut, but he never had a year as good as his rookie year, even though he wound up playing 12 full in the bigs. It's sort of weird.
Happy anniversary, Phil Niekro. On this day 47 years ago, while playing for the Atlanta Braves, Niekro pitched his only no-hitter against the Padres. Niekro won 318 games, the most ever by a knuckleballer. Mastery of the knuckleball prolonged Niekro's career. He won 121 games after the age of 40, a major league record. Niekro remains the last major league pitcher to win and lose 20 or more games in the same season. In 1979, he was 21-20, started 44 games, completed 23 of them. He won 20 games 3 times. He lost 20 twice. He won a Gold Glove 5 times and led the league in victories twice and ERA once. Phil Niekro and his younger brother Joe, the master of the Emery board, won 539 games between them, the most combined wins by brothers ever. That's 10 more victories combined than Gaylord and Jim Perry. Phil Niekro was elected to the Hall of Fame in 1997, and on a personal note, I have his autograph on a baseball right here in my attic. Phil Niekro, right there.
Phil Niekro, when he was late in his career, he looked like he was 80 years old, Tony. But how about this? His brother Joe Niekro, who nobody knows, 221 wins for Joe Niekro. Only Verlander with 226 among active players has more than Joe Niekro. Unbelievable.
The other Niekro.
The other Niekro.
The other one.
Not Phil.
Happy trails to the New York Rangers. The Broadway Blue Shirts became the first team excused from the NHL bubble after losing 4-1 to the Carolina Hurricanes last night and being swept from the playoffs 3-0. Carolina beat Henrik Lundqvist in the first 2 games and Igor Shesterkin in the third. Rangers coach David Quinn said, quote, "Certainly our goaltending wasn't our problem in the series," unquote, without disclosing what was. How about offense? The Rangers scored 4 goals in 3 games. Carolina scored 11. So another season ends for the Rangers without the Stanley Cup. I am a native New Yorker. I have spent my entire life hoping the Rangers and the Knicks would win something. In the last 87 years, both teams have won exactly 2 championships. The Knicks in 1970 and 73, the Rangers in 1940 and 1994. The Knicks have now gone nearly 50 years without a title. The Rangers actually went 53. So they are due again in like 2047. Let me know how that works out.
Aren't you old for the Rangers in person? Because you weren't sitting next to me. I was writing a column when the Rangers won in 94.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I looked to my left and to my right. Where's Anthony Kornheiser? Not here.
No, wasn't there. Wasn't there. That was Messier's year. Wasn't
Messier's
there.
year
I want to note the passing of one of the great newspaper columnists ever. Pete Hamill died today at age 85. Hamill and Jimmy Breslin were larger-than-life city-side columnists in New York City when city-side columnists were a must-read. I cut out Hamill's columns from the New York Post. I taped them to my bedroom wall when I was a kid, hoping I could write like that someday. Wilbon, you probably did that with Mike Royko and Bob Green in Chicago.
Tony, I certainly did, and there might have been some Siskel and Ebert columns in there, too. I met Mr. Hamill just once with Mike Lupica and Leslie Visser and Bob Ryan. I think I was with them. There was some Big East circumstance, and Hamill walked in. I was like, whoa, this guy's a big deal. I didn't grow up in New York reading him, but I knew that.
Hamill and Breslin, big deal. Let's go to the big finish. Raiders quarterback Derek Carr says he is tired of being disrespected. Does that make sense?
His record, Tony, as a starter, 39-55, and no playoff games. Now, he had a good season last year in some ways, but come on, stop. Albert Pujols now has 659 home runs, one away from your idol, Willie Mays. How you feeling about that?
He earned it. His first 10 years, he was Ruthian, and he stayed. He's okay. Mike Trout homered in his first at-bat since becoming a father. Your thoughts?
Tony, I think he and this guy, Joe Adele, the rookie, who I think broke in last night, had his first hit in the majors. That's some combination in the making, I think. Angels manager Joe Madden says Shohei Ohtani is unlikely to pitch again this season. That disappoints you, doesn't it?
I am disappointed. He's trying to do something that's never been done, to go season after season and pitch and hit. I'm disappointed. Last one. How many is Connor McDavid going to put on your Blackhawks tonight?
2 goals. Blackhawks win in overtime.
Really?
Take that.
I thought they drew the short straw. I thought that's what you told me.
Take that.
We're out of time. Try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. We're bumped until Monday by the PGA Knuckleheads. You can get us on the podcast or the app or Apple Podcast. Tony, apologize to the Suns, particularly my man Devin Booker. Do it.
PGA goes all